Alright, today we're going to be learning about finding the rational roots of a polynomial. So let's start off by looking at the graph of this polynomial. Our first question asks us, what are the roots of this polynomial? And as you'll recall from the beginning of the year, the roots are the same thing as the x-intercepts. So our roots would be -3, -1, and +2. If we wanted to rewrite them in factor form, we know that the roots are the solved version of the factors, so the roots and the factors have opposite signs, and the factors are in parentheses with x. So we'll have x plus 3, x plus 1, and x minus 2. Now for this polynomial, we could see the roots off the graph, but if we don't know any of the zeros or the roots, we can create a list of possible rational roots or rational zeros, which we can use to find all the others. So the way that we find the possible rational roots, and that's the key word, possible, we're going to have more possibilities than actual answers, is by taking the factors of the constant and divide them all by all the factors of the leading coefficient. So let's see how this works. So in number 1, our constant is 12 and our leading coefficient is 1. So we're going to divide P over Q. We're going to take all the factors of 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now technically 12 can also be divided by -1. So it's divisible by 1, it's also divisible by -1. It's divisible by 2, it's also divisible by -2. So all of our factors are going to get a plus or minus. Then we're going to take all the factors of our leading coefficient, which in this case is just 1, so plus or minus 1. If we divide each of these factors by positive or -1, we're just going to end up with the same thing. So plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 6, and plus or minus 12. And those are all our possible roots. I'm going to move that up. I forgot we had a definition below. So those are all our answers. So number 2, our constant is 10 and our leading coefficient is 4. So we're going to take all the factors of 10, so plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 5, plus or minus 10, and divide them by all the factors of 4. So they're going to get divided by plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, and plus or minus 4. So if we take all 4 of these, our factors of 10, and divide them by positive or -1, they're going to stay the same. Then we need to divide each of them by 2. 1 divided by 2 will be 1/2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, which is already on our list, so we don't need to write it again. 5 divided by 2 would be 5/2. 10 divided by 2 would be 5, which is already on our list. So then we go back and divide them all by 4. 1 divided by 4 would be 1/4. 2 divided by 4 simplifies to 1/2, and we already put that on our list. 5 divided by 4 would be 5/4. And 10 divided by 4 would simplify to 5/2, which we also already have on our list. All right, next we need to talk about the fundamental theorem of algebra, and I'm going to give you the abbreviated version. The fundamental theorem of algebra basically says that the degree of the polynomial will equal the number of solutions. Now some of those solutions may repeat, which we'll see eventually, but you know the highest exponent is going to give you the greatest number of solutions you can have. So in example number 1, how many solutions will this equation have? It's already written in standard form. We look for the highest exponent, which is 4, so we know that this equation will have 4 solutions. And number 2, what's our highest exponent? Hopefully you said 7, which means that that equation will have 7 solutions. All right, we're going to write all the possible rational roots and then find all the roots. So we know our P is 20 and our Q is 1. And I don't know why the word shift is following me around, but I cannot get it to go away. So we're just going to deal with it. So factors of 20 would be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 5, plus or minus 10, plus or minus 20. So we need to figure out which one of those is a root. So let's start with positive 1. Bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 5 and 1 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Negative 4 and 6 is positive 2. 2 times 1 is 2. That does not make 0, so that does not work. Okay, let's try 2. Bring down the 1, that's 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 5 and 2 is 7. 7 and 2 is times 2 is 14. Negative 4 and 14 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. And we get 0. Excellent. So 2 works. So now we're left with x squared plus 7x plus 10. So we need to figure out equals 0. We need to figure out what multiplies to 10 and what adds to 7. And that would be 2 and 5. So x plus 2 and x plus 5 are our factors, which means x equals negative 2 and negative 5. But that's only 2 roots, and we had an exponent of 3. Well, our third root is this 2 that we used to divide, so 2. And that's how we find all the roots. Is start by taking our roots and writing them back in factored form. So if we have a root of 3, we have a factor of x minus 3. We have a root of negative 2, we have a factor of x plus 2. And if we have a root of 1, we have a factor of x minus 1. What we're going to do is start by multiplying the first two together. So we'll get x squared plus 2x minus 3x minus 6. So we've combined those, and then I'm bringing down my x minus 1. I'm going to combine like terms here to make it a little simpler. X squared minus x minus 6 times x minus 1. And then I'm going to multiply all 3 of these with both of these. So x squared times x is x cubed. x squared times negative 1 would be negative x squared. And what I like to do while I'm multiplying is I like to write my like terms in columns going down because these answers can get really long and it's harder to see the like terms. So we finished multiplying the x squared with both of those. So we're going to do negative x times x, which will be negative x squared. So I'm going to put that below my other x squared. Negative x times negative 1 will be positive x. Negative 6 times x would be negative 6x. Negative 6 times negative 1 would be positive 6. Then I'm going to combine all my like terms. Since we're writing a polynomial, we're going to put f of x at the beginning. It's going to equal x squared minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6.